Yeah, my chest feels rather freaking inflated. That was a very good chest day. And really, that's what I'm aiming for, right? It's not just because being super pumped in the gym means that your workout was, top tier awesome. But if everything in and out of the gym for your lift was set up accordingly, then you will be super pumped because you'll be well fed in a bulking context. You'll be all carbed up and full of, just full of glycogen. If you're fully hydrated, you're gonna have more than enough fluids to work with to actually draw from to pump up a certain muscle group, right? It's not like you just get pumped up from thin air. It's coming from, pretty much evenly distributed fluids across the rest of your build. And if you go nuts on a set-by-set basis, at least on average, you're gonna end up, just freaking, swollen like a damn tomato, right? So it's more so that a pump is a consequence of an awesome lift that's gonna result in progress or muscle maintenance while you get leaner, which is still progress, just in a slightly different kind of way, So, and that's not even to mention like the sarcoplasmic stretch effect of whatever. Go nuts. And I feel like that was, I can leave feeling good. That's all I gotta say there. It's a very nice feeling to sit down in the car, get the air conditioning going, scroll on your phone for a minute, eat a little pack of fruit snacks you got from the vending machine at the gym, after getting a quad pump so big that you end up, hobbling around like a cowboy instead of, taking normal steps, and knowing you just put a quarter ton, or actually a little over a quarter ton onto your back and threw that shit around in a controlled manner. That's not something everybody gets to say or gets to experience, and I'm most certainly grateful for the ability. There's a few things that I actually think about pretty consistently that I'm actually very grateful for. Right? Number one, I have all 10 fingers still, because I'm sure somebody in here actually has a story about, just a little more than a week ago where their Uncle Terry couldn't put it in reverse and then got hit with a cherry bomb, or like a Blitzel. I don't know the names of fireworks, but that's one. Right, because these things are freaking important. This is my direct connection to the weight, at least for basically most of my movements. I don't want to mess that up. And I've done it before. This isn't just like a hypothetical. Like oh man, I don't know how to describe it exactly. I was lucky enough I didn't I brought this up a few times, but I was working and I totally sliced the pad of my thumb open. So I'm talking not on this hand, but this one. You might not be able to see. I'd have to take a picture. But I got a nice ass scar from total side to side of all of the meat in my palm that connects my thumb to everything else. And that's pretty freaking important stuff. Luckily enough, I think it was mostly just cutting through muscle. I didn't split any tendons or crazy arteries or what's the other one? Any serious nerves. But I don't even like to think about it because there's so much important shit going on here. So for 2 months, this hand was almost out of commission. There was no pressing. So little tip: if you ever have a wrist upward injury of any degree of severity, what you can do is really start making use of the ankle attachment, right? I know 90% of the ankle attachment is going to be used by girls doing glute kickbacks, or actually now it's a bit more popular for push downs and lateral raises. But if you start thinking with your brain a little more, you can put that thing around your wrist, and as long as you've got at least a little bit of beef on your forearm, you will be able to actually push with it as well. So I was doing 2 months of just wrapping that ankle attachment to my arm here, and then doing presses that way, where the load was just going through my mid forearm instead of up in my hands. So that was pressing, this was curling, it was just connected right here, and then this was push downs, right? Just a whole kind of combination of all that sort of shit. And yeah, totally worked. It sucked. Like I was really freaking out right when I did it. Not only because, I mean, just like adrenaline rush, but I mean, I was like, God, no lift for me today. You know, like that was like my first priority that I was thinking about got kind of screwed up. You know, so either way, it all worked out, healed up rather nicely. And then another thing is just being strong, right? Like being in shape. So what I mean by that is just not being hurt. It's a cool little car. So like when I'm strong, fully bulked, throwing a shit ton of weight around, everything feels good, I don't have any tweaks, that is an awesome state of being, you know? Because if you like tweak your pec or like mess up your elbow or your shoulder or your forearm or something, I mean, if you, to somebody who doesn't work out, they might not care. But for me, it's like, I feel like I'm just so limited in what I can do, you know? Like if I hurt my chest or something, then I've got to open up doors specific ways so I don't accidentally hurt it even more. Or if my knee is kind of screwed up, maybe like I've had my knee hurt a bit, like tendon wise, like right on top of the kneecap. Nothing like injury wise, but like just some kind of tweak or like a nerve pinch or something. But like I'd have to walk up the steps a little bit funky instead of just going after it. You know, it just kind of sucks, right? So those are my two things that I'm really thinking about a lot of that make me, you know, just kind of make me feel pretty good. You know, so I definitely try my best not to take those for granted. And half of that is kind of just a learning experience of you don't know what you have till you lose it, you know? So it's, however my approach with any injury I've ever had goes, it's always kind of led me to the belief that as long as I can do something, that's what I want to do, lifting wise, you know. So if I'm supposed to, well, not supposed to, but you know, if I'm working out, let's say right now, semi truck comes flying at me, cross-sectional total wreck the Camry, left leg completely shattered into bits. Actually, that's a little bit too serious. If you have like a serious, like if you just had a spine surgery, maybe you don't, you know, go do legs or arms. That's a little bit different, you know. But let's say you like snapped your ankle, just like a little thing like that. You know, knock on wood, of course. But I'm sure this guy. There was a dude in there today. I could tell he had a knee splint on, or one of those like, you know, kind of Velcro-looking things so it doesn't bend out of place or whatever. He's still grinding. He wasn't doing legs, but he was doing back, he was doing arms. You know, you can work around some stuff. So if you have an injury that's work-aroundable, then, you know, do that by all means. Because if not, then you're going to start to slow yourself down, and then you're going to be playing catch-up, you know? I do not think you're going to interfere with your ability to recover if you hurt your wrist or something by working out your legs or anything else. If anything, I think it would be the total opposite, where that would actually help you improve your recovery, because then you're going to keep your, you know, just momentum up. You're going to be eating more food because your metabolism's burning at a quicker rate because you're actually doing more things in a day. You know, being sedentary, like just sitting, like it obviously it depends. You know, if somebody had a freaking, you know, intertorso, like a big ass thing, that's different. But I'm talking about things that can be worked around. If you stop working out and go, you know, relatively sedentary, I'm talking no sweating, no heart rate over 100 beats a minute in your day, not good. Not good for you. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's what we're talking about with muscle maturity, right? I mean, guys can just keep lifting for, you know, however long, and they may not be continually gaining size, but just the process of real, like legit training, you're actually bringing it. You're gonna go from like a freaking sapling up to an old ass, what's a real grainy, barky tree? You know, what am I talking, an oak? Or is an oak a little smoother? But either way, that's what I'm kind of getting at. You know, so it's not only a pursuit of quantity, right? Quality is involved as well. And I'm really getting excited to diet down, you know, come later into this year, early next year too. And then I'm double excited because the plan's to do the Arnold. But regardless of how that goes, because that's full of like real experienced older competitors, For me at least, I do know that I'm gonna look way more nuts. For one, I'll be leaner, but also I won't have to suck down and like sweat out pounds upon pounds of water, which would have made me kind of like extra full, right? If you go back to, you know, this would have been the week prior to the Vegas Classic, or you know, the Vegas show that I did before the Arnold. That week in Dragon's Lair, like there's a few lifts, I think it was mainly chest and arms. That was the nuttiest that I've ever looked. Historically, that's my PR pump check in the mirror in terms of just overall freak factor plus aesthetics from being, you know, actually leaner, a little more kind of V-taperish, and just grains out the wazoo. So that's the look that I want to bring, or not even bring, like that's just the look I want to get back again because it's so freaking cool, you know. So that's kind of my motivating factor right now for coming in the next diet. Just because I know if I would skip days and slack and like not count my calories and anything, I would never get that look again, you know. So there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, but if you want it to work, shit, man, you gotta stay in that deficit. Yeah, man, I'm getting excited to get lean again. You know, there's just I mean, you don't need me to explain why being lean is cool, but yeah, I mean, actual just like grain and kind of the visual appeal. Yeah, my logic has always been to you know, almost if I could envision it, it's like I'm climbing a mountain, you know, a mountain of gains, and every off season is another trek, you know, 200 meters of elevation, 300 meters of elevation. And then the dieting phase is a break from that trek upward, because when you're dieting, you're not growing, not to any substantial degree, at least. So that's when you get to kind of turn around and look at the view, right, and see where you've actually, you know, kind of made it up to. But yeah, I definitely spoiled myself with the last prep in terms of getting to really see how I look diced. Because I mean, I've gotten lean before, but yeah, that last competition season earlier this year, that was extra lean for me. And that wasn't even as lean as I could have gotten. You know? So now I can learn and, you know, approach this next dieting phase even better, and probably take it a bit further, simply, you know, due to the fact that now I'm a bit more used to taking a diet that far, right? Somebody who's never ran a marathon before is going to have some trouble even running the mile. But once you've gone that mile, it's going to be a little easier next time. You know? So that's half of, you know, my kind of thought process when I imagine, you know, guys who have never bulked, they've never really cut either. They're just kind of in limbo of like a normal body fat percentage, and you got to pick one. One or the other, because if you pick neither, I feel like you're kind of just wasting time, you know, at least as long as you're not making progress. If you're steadily getting stronger and bigger, you know, main gaining style, who am I to tell you you're doing anything wrong, right? Keep going. Main gaining is legit. I mean, I was making pretty steady main gaining progress for like 2.5 years or so. And then once that kind of started to slow down for me, that's when I decided to get into kind of an off-season dieting sort of approach. But yeah, getting closer. Definitely more than, actually, yeah, probably just about 75% of the way there for this off-season. Maybe a little more, a little less, but yeah, I'm ready to get lean again. That's gonna be freaking cool. But I think I already said this earlier too. You know, what's the cut without the bulk that comes first, right? There is no sunrise without a sunset. There is no tide without a, well, I guess just the opposite, tide. You know what I'm saying? There's no sun without the moon. So they kind of, at least for me, they live in a good balance. I was making a kind of reference about that yesterday. Some guys love staying bulked forever. It's their thing. They couldn't care less about seeing their abs. And then some guys, I think, might be a little too attached to being crazy lean, and you know, then they stay lean all year round, and they don't make that much progress. So I think a middle ground of, you know, sweet and sour, right? What's another one? Sweet and sour, salty and sweet and salty. It's kind of stupid. That's sweet twice. Well, either way, having a good blend of the two is a nice middle ground for me. because I get the best of both worlds. Diced for a portion of the year, and big and strong for a portion of the year. And for me, at least, I'm probably just about 50-50 in terms of my preference for either. Right? Like, I think there's a value in, not even I think it, I know that there's a difference between somebody who brought it too hard versus, who kind of stayed comfortable the entire time, right? I do not think I would be current Sam as we are looking at now if every lift was like, very lightweight, very just squeezing reps, get your head into the, like, it's just not how I was built. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't all sets like that either. So really, I'm just trying to make a justification on why I think a few light days would be better. But yeah, I think that might be the plan. Because I can tell I've got more minor little twinges than normal. And nothing serious, like nothing that I think is gonna like really, tweak into anything. But I'm, sometimes if I overdo it, my brachioradialis, whatever, this muscle right here that ties into my forearm gets a little tender, like if I curl too heavy or if I do some kind of something or just whatever, so I don't want to mess that up any further. So I think tomorrow with back, and then subsequently with arms, and then for quads and hamstrings for legs afterward, I'm going to make at least those 3 rep focused rather than weight focused. And so instead of another almost 550 pound squat, let's just do some squeezing leg extensions, some lighter leg press. I really liked, so I'm going to go back to the warehouse for legs next time, because that hip press that I've got in the corner, putting like half of the weight that I normally put on it, and instead of doing like normal speed reps, pre-exhausting with leg extensions and then doing faster reps, like I was just talking about, as like a finisher of, rapid contraction to stretch, that's going to be good. So that's where I think my eyes have been opened up a little bit, but still going to get pumped, still going to go nuts. I have, this is one thing that I've been kind of pondering about my leg training that I kind of really miss back, about more like 2 years ago-ish, a year and a half, 2, something along those lines. And that was when, when I got my squat really high newly, right? Like I'd never been doing this weight before. So to even get under like, 4 or 5 X plates, like it was a freaky thing, to the point where I'd be getting nervous about my leg day days before. Like I'd be doing chest and I'd kind of have a little thought in my mind of like, okay, crap, right, that means I can squat on Friday. Because it was a totally new sensation, not even like for me just, consciously, but also subconsciously, right? To go from like regular sets, leg extensions, maybe some leg press here and there, to like full-on maximum exertion squats. I mean, I'm not usually one to make a big fuss about, central nervous system fatigue and activation and things like that, right? But if you were to plug, I don't know, if you were to put like some kind of wave, like mind wave reader on all over my head, or like little electrodes just all over the place, I could guarantee that during the squat, whatever measurement or bars or line graph is being charted would go freaking haywire for at least as long as that set was going on. And it would get progressively crazier right up until the last rep, ideally at failure, So that's what makes me, that's part of what makes me think the squat is a little bit more special than anything else. Because, honestly, I feel like it kind of translates strength everywhere else. It might be a stretch to say it makes me feel like I'm stronger in my chest. Like when I'm benching and doing curls, I kind of feel like it does, just from how much it's kind of training my ability to exert force in general, totally across the board. But I think it's still fair to say that it's gonna translate strength, at least into your quads, on everything. I'm talking leg extensions, leg press, hack squat, anything that you end up doing. will, I mean, you'll just be able to go harder. You know, heavier weights, more tension, better sets, more stimulative workouts, more gains, right? An upward cycle. But it's not the other way around, right? A square is a rectangle is not a square. I don't think anyone is going to build a massive squat purely from leg pressing, because the squat has so much going on. You can't, it's not like you know, it's not like a fly where if you've got a heavy bench, you'll be able to fly pretty heavy as well. You know, so that's what makes me think that at least a free bar squat, you know, I've gone through some kicks of, you know, mainly leg press or mainly Smith machine squats, but I end up always coming back to the barbell squat. I do think that there's something there if you can get good at it, you know. And by get good at it, I do not mean be crazy strong at it, like for your weight class, or like if you look up a strength calculator and you plug in, you know, what you can do and see what percentile you are. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about getting good at the squat, as in you're comfortable loading the squat to a pretty hefty amount of weight for what you're capable of, and really exerting yourself, ideally to failure. So that doesn't have to be 6 plates. That doesn't have to be 4 plates. A 2-plate set of squats, if you really bring it, you know, you get your legs at least just about at parallel. If you go, I mean, if you're quarter squatting, I'm typically one to say don't worry about people looking at you in the gym. A quarter squat, you might get some eyes on you. You know, I've seen far too many quarter squats. Now, that's not to say maybe you have a knee thing, whatever. But not everybody's gonna be thinking like that. I'll just keep it real with you. Another day, another pump. Another day. Let's let's do the math. Let's I mean, even if you gained 1 pound of muscle in 1 month, that's gonna be 16 ounces, 30 days. Shit, man. Another day, another ½ ounce of beef accrued. And I'm I guess the kind of idea I've always kind of heard coming up was you kind of recover individually and like build muscle on a muscle group after it's been trained. So it's like, you know, I'd hear a lot of stuff where it's like your chest is growing for a period of, you know, 48 or something hours after you've hit it, and then it's recovered, and then you're ready to hit again. You know, things along those lines. I wouldn't try to stress it too much. For the most part, as long as I feel like you're hitting everything consistently, you're kind of just constantly accruing small bits of size all over the place. But I mean, let's think about it. What's a ½ ounce, right? That's what, like 14 paper clips. That'd be the equivalent weight of 14 $1 bills. You know, if I pickpocketed, or if I reverse pickpocketed, you know, $14 in singles into your jacket, you'd have no freaking idea, right? And if your entire, I mean, let's say you put the same outfit on that you've worn forever. It's you know, you're rocking jeans, shirt, hoodie, whatever, and you made it ½ ounce heavier suddenly one day, you'd never notice, right? It's completely beyond the realm of noticeability, at least on a day by day kind of basis, right? But I mean, 1 month, that's a whole pound. The pound's pretty hefty. 4 months, 5 pounds, and that's just saying 1 pound a month as a gaining sort of rate, and you know, pushing it a little further than that, totally within reason. But yeah, kind of I've been seeing the same shit a little bit, just trying to get into, you know, like, don't be so concerned about day by day gains, because you're never even going to notice them anyway. But I think we get the gist there. But I will definitely make sure I earn my ½ ounce to potential ounce of muscle growth today by way of completely thrashing my chest. I was just watching an Attack on Titan TikTok edit. It was the 𝒮𝓂 scene. You know, kind of the first. You know, I don't want to spoil it. I know it's been out for a while, but you never know. And that's gonna get me extra. But me and Mark went to go get some hot chicken takeover and help one of our buddies move some stuff around at their house. So I have got a full belly, potentially gonna, make my stomach a little upset going into tomorrow, but that's okay. That is okay with me. Right? I don't need every meal to be chicken and rice and everything else. And also just because I like it. That's half of it. But also, I don't think it's like, I guess this is up to you. Like your level of, kind of strictness with the things that you're doing. But as far as I'm concerned, in an off season, if you're trying to grow, you want to recover, you want to get calories into your system so that you're actually, full of enough energy to build everything back and build everything back up bigger and stronger. More food is not a problem. More food is very rarely the issue. You know what I'm saying? Plus, don't forget, 30 minutes of cardio is still the staple. As much as we're always, pinpoint the most efficient meal plan, everything else, there is most certainly some logic to, being able to burn stuff off, right? The guy who works at your office, who works out all the time and does CrossFit and long distance cycling, yeah, he can eat some treats. He's burning through that energy. It's a bit more of an issue if your energy expenditure or if somebody's daily activity level is on the pretty much low side, because then the only need that your body has to actually burn energy and use the food that you're eating for fuel is just to keep yourself alive, right? To pump your blood, to walk around a little bit. But if that's it, that doesn't take a ton of energy, right? Just staying alive is not plates upon plates of food. It really is. You guys can get away with sub 2,000 calories, depending on the guy's weight and whatever their activity level may be. But that's not unfathomable, because it's just a calculation of your size and how much calories, your heart rate, and everything else like that. But just to stay alive, not a ton of food. Now once you add weight training, once you add cardio, and really just, even just those two, that's substantial. That is a large amount of energy compared to what the regular non working out kind of person is going to burn in a single day, to the point where, yeah, that guy's different, right? That guy's metabolism is and it's not even so much of a metabolism thing per se. It's more so just that guy has more of a need to extract the energy from the food that he's eating, rather than purely just store it as body fat because it's in a surplus, right? It's not an awesome kind of representation of what I'm getting at, but you're getting paid X a month, your rent and your regular life is half of that, and everything extra, right, gets saved, gets stored. So food wise, you're paying your body 3,000 calories. You only need 2,000 to stay alive. That extra 1,000, it doesn't just disappear. Your body is really good when it comes to keeping a very smart and accurate count of everything that goes into it, as well as the energy that gets burned and is put out, because whatever difference there is will be made up for in your body's basically fat stores, for the most part, to put it simply, right? You eat in a deficit, you're actually dieting for real, you're going to start losing body fat, right? You got to itch into your savings of energy. And in the opposite case, at least to a degree, if you eat enough in a surplus, you're going to start growing new muscle, but there's always going to be some fat storage along with it. There is no off season where the guy is exactly as lean as he was in the dieting phase, right? It's just not how the freaking math adds up. So if your point is to get bigger, eat some food, right? Don't worry about getting a little bit softer. It's just part of the game. Don't get too soft, because then you're setting yourself up for, if not failure, just a chore of a diet to get back to a regular body fat. But if you're within a 17, 18% body fat kind of area in your deeper off season, that's not, 18% to diced, that's 3 months, right? That's 3 or 4 months of just a regular diet. I'm not even talking like complete starvation mode. You know, it's pretty quick to make a change if you're within that, you know, kind of body fat percentage area. You know? So I guess the point I'm getting at is if you're bulking, part of it too, even just on like a personal note, get your food in now, because if you actually want to stick to a real diet, you're not going to be able to, I mean, there's not going to be hot chicken takeover once I start dieting down. You know, there's not going to be a Cane's at the end of the week once I start dieting down. You know, as much as I let my diet get slightly dirtier in an off season, is the same proportion that I clean it up in a dieting phase. And it's kind of just because of the purpose that the diet is supposed to serve. You know, I think one underrated aspect of an off season, in compared to, you know, going back and forth between bulk and cut, is the fact that you kind of, I mean, at least as long as I've been doing it, my pattern has been eat a friggin' ton of food within reason for, you know, 5-6 months, and then get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm sick of eating all this food, and then to diet for 3 months and get pretty freaking lean at the end of it. I'm still within my buffer zone of, I'm so sick of eating all this food, so the dieting phase gets extra easy. And then at the end of the dieting phase, I start to get that itch to eat more food again, and whoop-de-doo, it's time to bulk, you know? So it's just a nice back and forth, right? It's like you're pushing somebody on the swing, and every time they come back to you, you push them a little harder, and it keeps getting higher and higher. You know, so that's kind of my outlook on my dieting phase. And for me, that feels pretty good, right? Like that's my natural orbit around bulked and lean. You know, I'm in a figure 8 of each. You know, now I'm in the bulked orbit, getting bigger. Oh, I'm getting a little tired of the food. I'm pretty much as big as I'm gonna get. Launch into the diet. Oh yeah, nice and lean, and then just back and forth, all in equilibrium. You know, and some guys, maybe more power lifter focused, you want to just move insane weights purely for its own sake, they're going to keep their orbit around the bulk side. And then, you know, some other more just guys who don't have that same itch to get big, and they just like being their size really lean, they're going to stay right here in the dieted orbit. You know, that's all they like. They don't want to branch out. They just want to stay nice and lean. This is the look that they've culminated, and they've said to themselves, I want to stay here for a while, you know. And in both, you know, of those situations, you're good, right? That's sweet. As long as you actually mean it, and, you know, you're staying bulked or you're staying cut because you actually want to, you know, not just because of like some kind of outer pressure or whatever, then you're good, right? That's sweet. You know, the problem is there's a lot of characters who are, you know, kind of non-orbiting entities. They're not bulked, they're not cut, they're just floating through space. You know, it's not good. And they want to be one or the other, they're just not exactly sure which one. And that's where I say you got to pick. You know, the only wrong decision of should I bulk versus should I cut is the third hidden option, where you do nothing and then you just stay the same body fat percentage that you're at now. You're not getting that much bigger or stronger, and you're not getting any leaner either. Just staying there, you know. And stasis, I mean, shit, staying exactly the same as where you were before, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. That's like the antithesis of life, you know. Something's doing good if it's kind of moving around and being active. You know, if things start to slow down, I don't know, man. Just pick one. And no matter which one you do, if you think you picked wrong, at least afterward is going to be the time to do the other one. So it's not even picking between the two, it's just picking which one you want to do first. You know, but that's how to exactly decide that, that's its own situation. Okay? Are you a beginner? Maybe just don't do either and main gain. I guess I forgot, that's the fourth option, which is solid. You're going to grow if you start working out and you've never worked out before. I did that for like 3 years before I really started getting into like leveraging my calorie intake and carbs. I was eating my, you know, enough protein the whole time, but that's, everybody eats the protein, I feel. You know, actually getting enough energy based kind of foods that can really push the scale one way or the other. But once that has kind of reached its end, you're not like gaining the same size and strength as you were in the beginning of your kind of newbie gains phase. That's where I say you want to pick. So if you're a beginner, don't even worry about it. Work out hard and eat when you're hungry. Stay hydrated. Perfect tip. And then the more you get into it, the more you're going to learn about, you know, protein and carbs and everything else. So it's just a natural progression. But you'll get to a point where you got to pick one or the other, and I think you'll like it. But that's my opinion. That's not like a fact, you know. So just take that as you will. But when you get home, eat second dinner, drink a friggin' ton of water. I was sweating bad today. I guess sweating good today. I think it'll make sense to go a little more chill now. So that's usually my first stage of my first level of defense against, you know, needing a rest day or kind of having to recuperate a little extra. Not immediately pump the brakes, you know, and take like 2 days off or anything like that, but, you know, kind of ease into it a little more, because you can still bring it on a light squeezing day. And I think that you're a better lifter if you can not be so kind of turned off by the idea of that, you know. Let's say you totally wreck your shoulder, you can do flies. You can't bench, but you can do flies, and they feel good, like you're not hurting yourself. Then you're good. You know, just do those until you're ready to actually load yourself some more. Right. The last thing I like to hear, and I say the same phrase every time, but it's still just as true as the first time we said it. It's seeing a guy where he's, you know, I know that this dude has an infamously bad shoulder. I know his rotator cuff is freaking cooked, but he still continues to wreck it every time he comes into the gym to do chest. And he's just like, yeah, man, my shoulder. Yeah, there's no movement, you know, at least like bodybuilding set-wise, that a crunching sound or a snapping sound means that you're doing it right. Absolutely freaking not. But I still feel pretty good about it. Good hamstring sets. I think I overdid it with the heavy seated curls in the beginning. And I don't mean overdid it as in like pulled anything. I mean overdid it like there's almost a level of intensity that I think you start to get diminishing returns for the rest of the workout. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it's kind of weird to say, but if the first few sets you bring it so hard that you're super fatigued, but you're not fully pumped yet, then for the next few at the end of the workout, it might actually be hard for you to really pump yourself up because you totally wrecked yourself in the beginning, you know? So I think I might have been better off doing just 3, maybe even 2 of those heavy seated curls, and then doing the rest laying, squeezing. But that's just more information for the language learning model. Right? That is my noggin. You know, that's one thing that I think gets a little underappreciated, because when we talk about lifting experience, you know, we're always talking muscle maturity, mind muscle connection, just overall, like, you know, stick-to-itiveness and discipline. But what I don't hear brought up a lot is just the fact that if you have done, you know, hundreds, thousands of lifts, all of those lifts, as long as you change it up to a reasonable degree, you know, if you do the same lift every time, it doesn't matter if you do 10,000 of them, you're not really building your knowledge base as much. But let's say you actually change it up, you know, every workout's a little different than the last one, then you're going to kind of start to develop subconscious decisions when it comes to movements or just overall workouts, or, you know, like different superset combos or pre-exhausts, like doing cable flies and then doing presses, or, you know, just adding all sorts of little funky combos, where once you've done that for long enough, you kind of get your own individual taste for what kind of workouts you like. And I don't even want to say style, because it's not based on style, because that's more preference. It's like more so data-backed experience, where, you know, if you do this chest press and this fly on a day where you feel extra, you know, kind of strong and ready to move some weight, that's going to be the best lift for you on that given day. Whereas you would also know, okay, I feel a little off my lats are a little tender from the last back day. You know, maybe I shouldn't do really heavy dumbbell bench because then I got to pick them up. Maybe I should stick to more, you know, controlled squeezing machine-based workouts, you know, or things of that nature. And even though you might not think it consciously, just from having gone through the process of lift after lift after lift, I mean, I think now I've definitely surpassed the, so I've been lifting for 7 years, a little, just about 7. I'd say I probably started July of 2018-ish. I did like, you know, regular sports training before, but not like dedicated lifting. So 7 years, 300, probably 50 lifts a year. That's probably a good estimate. So that's what? That's 2,100. So nearly 2,500. Probably a little less, but just about that many. So that's all kind of added up, you know? It's like anything. The more practice time you get with something, the more just skill and kind of just flow you'll sort of develop, right? If I sat in my backyard every day for 2 hours and I swung, you know, whatever iron you would swing for like a 30-yard, 40-yard shot, and I was aiming at a specific target, and I just kept practicing, kept trying to get good, you know, better at it, not even with like no coach, no nothing, just watching like a YouTube tutorial. If I did that every day for months, I think I'd start to get at least semi-decent short game just from, you know, having done it, you know. And that's the same with anything. But I think sometimes it gets overlooked because we're more so concerned with like, okay, what are the physical gains that I'm going to get out of this period of training? Whereas if you're thinking more about like, you know, what are you going to learn after a certain period of time working out, then you're really setting yourself up for success, because then that's it's like your knowledge and experience is going to pay dividends, because now the workouts that you're going to do in the future going forward will be even better because you're basing it off of, you know, the experience that you've already clocked. You know, so all that's to say is more lifts the better. Right? I mean, I look back at my my early, probably year and a half, maybe 2. No, less than 2, but more than a year. I was doing 25 sets a day. So 25 sets of curls on an arm day with 25 sets of pushdowns. Too many. I could have condensed my intensity. I think that would have been more effective. But I do not look back on that and think, oh man, I wish I did it differently, because now I can say I got a lot of, you know, just rep experience, which, shit, man, I think that's translated to at least a reasonable kind of just getting used to being in the gym, right? I mean, if somebody hangs out in the gym for an hour and a half and they're working out, they might not be working out as efficiently as someone else, but they're in there working out the whole time. They're going to get much more comfortable in the space at a faster rate than, you know, someone who does like a quick 15-minute, you know, touch and go lift, you know, 1 rep or, you know, two sets per week kind of intensity sort of dude, you know. So I guess all that I'm really trying to get at is, don't underestimate the power of just being in the gym for a decently long period of time. And that's not even beginning to talk about just how much, you know, intel you might get from the guys that you're going to be working out with, right? Because they've all been doing the same thing, if not longer. So even if you don't want to go up to them and ask them any kind of tips or just whatever, like small talk, you can still see what they're doing. And, you know, monkey see, monkey do. If you see them do something you think is cool, try it out. And if it works, boom. That's one more new movement in your freaking appendix that you can go back to and say, yeah, I know what to do today, right? So that's my thing. Not to, okay, one more point. And I don't mean to just keep spinning off, but if you're also a bit more versatile with the amount of different kind of training you can do, then you're going to be much more ready, especially traveling. Let's say, you know, January is going to come up quicker than you freaking expected. Your gym's going to be packed. Let's say you come in and you're like, oh, I want to do incline bench, I want to do incline, just whatever, like I've got a whole workout planned. The gym's going to be packed. You're not going to be able to get pick of the litter of all the movements that you really want. That's not going to bother you, because you know so many different workouts. You can just pick any of them out of the drop of a hat and you're going to have a good lift. You know, so it's the benefits are endless, right? But this is that's just not even worth mentioning. But I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to get at. I'll see, because I look at it two ways. You can either get a really crazy kind of workout done earlier in the day, and then spend the rest of the day completely filling up with food, or at least in like a meal context, and you're eating in a recovery kind of aspect. Or you can kind of carb up the entire day to the point where now it's, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, you're completely full of carbs and you're ready to hit a lift then, fully fed. I used to be a bit more of a stickler where that's when I would only want to lift. Like if I didn't get enough meals in, then I didn't feel like I was ready to hit something. But now I'm a bit more open, and I think in terms of overall like potential kind of changes in progress wise, it's probably not extremely important, right? Or I guess impactful would be a better description, right? If you work out at 4 o'clock and your buddy works out at 8 o'clock, like he's not going to get any more noticeable gains than you are, unless he's grinding harder than you. That would be the only situation where I'd say you might get to step up your game. That was a good lift. That was good. I can't remember the last time I left the gym in anything but at least a decent mood. Right? I mean, I'm not going to be ecstatic if I had kind of a scrappy lift and maybe I didn't really bring it. But yeah, I could. I mean, there's definitely been well, no, I don't think so. Well, okay, that's not true. That's not true. I leave the gym a little disgruntled every time I hurt myself. Like there was, I think it was like 3 Christmases ago, I pulled my hamstring really bad because I was lean, like dieted at the time, and I did laying curls way too heavy, like quick, bouncy reps. Had a good little, it was all, I feel like it was intramuscular, but just something kind of lower right side of my right hamstring, like the outer whatever, but it was a big pull. That pretty much sucked for a while. Same with anytime I pull my chest, or like if I get like a shoulder thing, that always kind of sucks. But in terms of being related to my actual in the gym performance, which is being graded on my own kind of like subjective scale, yeah, man, yeah. I'd say 99% of the time I'm leaving feeling good. And even if even if the gym session didn't exactly go to plan, or maybe I get thrown off, or I messed it up, or whatever, then I'm probably still going to just find something to be happy about, because it's going to make me feel better. It's a very direct use of the kind of like a look on the bright side kind of mentality. And if you're really going through some shit, right? You're. I remember there was this one, I was looking at this one thing, it was kind of an interesting, it's sort of like a Buddhist kind of thing. I don't remember the exact theology, but the gist is like there's basically 6 states of being, or states of mind, right? If you're just, like there's one, it's like, I think they called it the human realm. When you're in the human realm, like this is what, a guy who's into this would say, he's like, you're just kind of, you're chilling, things are good, whatever, right? If you have a badass workout, or you accomplish something really cool, and you're just getting that kind of like ecstatic, like just sort of accomplished kind of feeling, that's its own thing. That's another kind of state of being. And there's one for when you're just fucking pissed. You're like not thinking coherently. You're like, everything sucks. Yeah, right? We've all been there. So it's not as easy to just be in that state of being and think, oh, I'll just look on the bright side. Oh, like I just crashed my car into a ditch. I'll look in the bright. Like in the moment, it's not so easy as just thinking that, right? But at least with smaller things, when you got decent control over your own kind of thoughts, it's gonna help, man. You have a set where you were a little bit thrown off. There's 2 situations, at least 2 extremes you could go for. Like let's say you, I just saw a little kind of TikTok like this. You kind of did a little bit of a deload week, you carved up, you got some really good rest, you're ready to hit a PR set, 225 for 10. You've only ever done it for 8, this is your week to hit 10. You come in, it's your first working set, you're warm, you're ready, one plate feels heavy. Like 225 for 10 is just not going to happen, right? You can either let that throw you off your game for the entire lift, or you can just kind of be like, Whoop-de-doo, let's keep going. I got other working sets that are going to make me stronger to actually do what I want to be able to do later on, right? So if just something relatively small throws you totally off your game for an entire lift, or more like in life, for like an entire day, or you get in a rut, not good, man. You're supposed to be able to defend against that kind of thing, right? If you stub your toe, you're not supposed to go to the hospital. You're supposed to be like, oh, that sucks. Well, I'll be all right, whatever. You gotta. It's an underrated skill to be able to thug it out. Now, sometimes you're gonna be going through some shit that's a bit trickier to thug out than others, but that's when you really got to do it, because it's almost even more important to be able to do it when things get a little trickier, right? Anybody can come in and have a good lift and stick to their diet and do their cardio when they're feeling good and the weather's nice and they're hanging out with all their buddies all the time and not a care in the world. Honestly, that's right now, summertime. It's about to be mid-July, and it's no longer as crazy of a heat wave, so now it's just nice and warm and cool out, right? It's easy to grind when things are going your way, so just try to keep that in mind anytime you get thrown with a freaking wrench in your gears. But that's not really a specific tip. It's kind of just something to think about whenever, right? But planning when I go home, I'm talking rice and some canned chicken. Personally, do not mind it whatsoever. 50 grams of protein right then, fully prepped, not dry or anything. Like, I don't understand the hate for the canned chicken. Why doesn't canned tuna get the same amount of hate? What's the difference? If anything, wouldn't tuna be weirder? It's like this weird ass creature swimming through the ocean. Right? We're all kind of a bit more connected with chicken. But either way, have a big ass meal and drink a ton of water. I think my water intake game has been a little off, but today was very good. Like, I haven't stepped on the scale for a few weeks, but just judging off of the mere look from that pose down, and it's also have to do with the fact that I was just extra pumped today. But yeah, that is some progress if I've ever seen it. And it doesn't have to be gaining 50 pounds in 3 weeks. That's what I'm talking about. And if anything, you should be the one who's the most kind of sensitive to small changes in your build, because you're the one who's looking at it all the time, and you would know. It's like, oh, I've never seen that vein before. I've never seen that insertion or striation or anything like that before. So if you can start to notice those a little more, if you can increase your sensitivity of detection of gains, no matter where they are. I'm talking like front of your calves in that little tibialis kind of area, or like the back of your forearms with all this like fancy kind of stuff. The more you can notice that and say, holy crap, what I'm doing is working, the better. For a long time, I was on a drop set kick. Every set I would do of every working whatever was a drop set. Pull downs, drop set. Rows, drop set. Bench, drop set. Right? Everything. But I don't think that's totally necessary for all the sets that you're doing. But for a few, I think it's good. And I kind of follow a certain logic of thinking where it's like, all right, there's basically two extremes in this scenario. Guys who do the same workout every time, the same chest day they've been doing since the 90s, the same back day, the same leg day, the same whatever. And if that works for them, cool, But I think on the other side of that spectrum is someone who takes it too far and is constantly changing up their workouts. Like, this is the guy who says he's doing full body every day, and then the next week he says he's doing bro split, and then the next week he says he's doing meds or one lift a week. And there's just no consistency whatsoever, because I think there's a sweet spot, and that's if you watch a lot of these, I'm sure you may have noticed, or maybe not, that when that's a good argumentative point I'd like to make. Just as like a visual of, okay, some people think like this, I think this is too crazy. Some people think like this, the total opposite. I also think they're a little bit too crazy. And then somewhere in that middle ground is where you're going to find the sweet spot. So between extreme repetitiveness and, complete disorderly conduct of your workouts is a mix in between, where there is enough consistency, at least for periods of time where you do the same training style, push pull legs, chest, back, arms, legs, check, whatever combination you're doing, and change up the lift on a lift by lift basis. Make sure you don't do the same thing over and over again, so that you always get a different kind of stimulus. I'm going to leave the gym feeling very different, still good from a light squeezing day versus a heavy nasty day. And they each have their own kind of pros and cons. So since I've been kind of on like a really heavy pulling rowing kick over the last couple back days, that's making me think that today I should focus a bit more on lighter weight squeezing, slower, extra controlled reps. I don't think my reps are that uncontrolled for the most part, but it's very different than doing like a full, 10-second, not a 10-second eccentric, but you know what I'm saying, like really slow controlled squeezing reps. And they have their place, right? Like it's like a normal distribution. Straight sets are in the middle, super crazy heavy sets are on the end, and light squeezing sets are also on the other end. So as long as I make sure I kind of dabble around, I think I'm good. So that definitely plays in to my, at least in the skin of the last few years, recent kind of sort of leaf turning to value my safety in terms of just overall like joint, tendon. Really, I'm just trying to say I don't want to rip my lats off. So it's definitely going to lend to that sort of goal, to include some lighter squeezing days, just so you're not constantly, pushing your freaking everything to the absolute limit that it can handle, and then eventually overloading it, right? You take, your muscles themselves are a bit more pliable and kind of resilient to injury and tweaks, where, I mean, there's like powerlifter guys where they'll have a pretty decent muscular tear. So this is like an extreme injury in this scheme of things. And, they take off, they let it all kind of bind itself up back together, because, I mean, when your muscles flex, it's this extra stiff, like just sort of material, at least feeling it from the outside. But when it's relaxed, I mean, you just have like this freaking fibrous kind of goo, with full of like fascia or whatever. So if you leave it and you actually let it heal, it'll all kind of group back up together pretty strong, if you really let it heal all the way. Your tendons, not so much. This is like my bro sciencey take to describe tendons, but I think you'd agree, you're not just gonna suddenly completely attach half your MCL if half of it tore when you got like side swiped playing football, or like your rotator cuff or your whatever. If you rip your pec off, tendon of the bone, it's not just gonna click back together. So that's something where I've started to get a bit more respect for just the damage that you can do. So if I ever have a little tweak, or maybe my left lat feels a little tight, and maybe I shouldn't try to bent over row 4 plates, I'm going to listen to that inner voice. I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to say thank you for not ripping my lat off and totally screwing the pooch. But it's don't be so concerned about that. I'm just, it's just my little kick of trying to say I don't want to hurt myself. And that's one thing I'm going to end up talking about, come this winter, is the fact that, as I get more and more cut up, I like how my back looks unpumped a bit more than I do, like, fully swollen and everything else. Because even though, we might think of being pumped up as just like this, all-encompassing leveling up of how you look in the moment, not totally true, right? It's a give and take. You're taking more size, just more swollenness. I mean, literally, somebody's arms can increase like a half inch, 3/4 inch just over the course of getting a really good arm pump. But in the sacrifice of, well, the drawback, the give, is you lose that kind of definition. It's like if you have if you've ever seen a balloon that's supposed to be a shape, like a square or like a triangle, whatever, like the rubber was formed like that. If you fill it up with enough air and just get it as swollen as possible, it's just going to end up round, And some guys like that more. They're going to say, oh, when I'm, full and round, it's just, that's what I'm looking for. But, I don't know, man. I think the grain is a much cooler aspect. Like if I could look like this, or like how I look cut up indefinitely, I'm going to pick the cut up version because, well, then it has its own double give, because when you're cut up, even though you're smaller, you'll actually look bigger because you've got the proportionality factor playing, where your waist and your elbows and your shoulders and your like just all your joints, all the midsection areas that are supposed to be smaller, look smaller relatively to everything else, and then you look freaking bigger and crazier. You know, so it's always a give and take. But that's my yin and yang. That's my ebb and flow of the last 3 or so years. Bulk up, cut down. And it's not just a back and forth, staying in the same place. It's more like I'm walking forward, but I'm kind of slithering, right? I'm making progress, get really bulked up, cut down, get really bulked up, and the whole process is just slowly moving forward.